So welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to take you through a full leg day, and before we get into that, I thought that I would talk about pre-workout nutrition, one of my favorite topics. I feel like I'm always trying to find ways to optimize my workout, really take advantage of the fuel I'm putting into my body and put it to good use with my workout. So all you macro tracking freaks, I thought I'd give you a breakdown of how to break up your macros pre and post workout so that you're optimally fueling for that leg day. And before I get into the specifics, I wanted to mention that there are many different time frames that people fuel before a workout. But for the purposes of this video, because I get up and train bright and early in the morning, I know a lot of you guys do too. So for the purposes of what we're calculating today, we're going to do it as we're getting up in the morning, we're working out, we're eating at least like 30 to 45 minutes before we work out. So all of that to say, let's get into the macros. So protein, before we work out, we want to consume at least 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilogram of protein. Most countries use the metric system, so I'm going to keep it in kilograms. I thought about converting it to pounds for all of us in the US to make it a little bit easier, but no, we're going to keep it in kilograms. So if you are like me, you're going to take your pounds and you're going to divide by 2.2, and that is going to give you your weight in kilograms. Look at us using the metric system. So let's calculate what that looks like. So for me, I am, as of this morning, 118 pounds. Look at me go, coming up from my stage weight of 105.9. So that is about 53 kilograms. So if we take 53, let's go back to math class, 53 multiplied by 0.4, that gives us about 21 grams of protein. Usually I like to aim for anywhere between like 15 to 21, 22 grams of protein. But you could really even go up to like 25 grams of protein. And there's a lot of research coming out showing that fueling up with protein before your workout is just as important as fueling up after your workout. And then our carbohydrates, which are our main fuel source throughout our workout, we mainly during our workout rely on like all of our glycogen storage from the day before. That's why it's really important to hit your carbs every single day, because your next workout session is relying on what you ate the day before pretty much. But the reason why it's important to eat carbohydrates for your session is because those carbohydrates break down into blood sugar, and that blood sugar is what's going to really like pep us up and give us energy throughout that session. So there's a lot of different research out there. I looked at multiple different studies, multiple different websites that are credible. They say different things, but for the purposes of this video, we are going to aim for 1 gram per kilogram of body weight of carbohydrates before our training session. If you are somebody that can tolerate higher carbohydrates, if you're somebody whose macros really get pushed, especially in the off season, like myself, who is currently at 400 grams of carbohydrates, I wear it with a badge of honor, you can kind of push that up a little bit more. So for example, by these calculations, 1 gram per kilogram, I should be consuming about 54 grams of carbohydrates before my workout. But I really try to spread those carbohydrates between like 4 or 5 different food boluses throughout the day, mainly 4. So I like to aim for about 100 grams of carbohydrates before my workout and 100 grams after. Usually I get in that like 88, 95 range, which is pretty good. But bottom line, 1 gram per kilogram before your workout. And then fat. Pre-workout, we're not as concerned about fat, especially if we're fueling those 30 to 45 minutes before we're working out. We want to keep fat minimal because fat really slows down our digestion. And our main focus for fueling pre-workout is that we're getting those carbohydrates, we're getting those sugars into our cells to fuel us and make us energized. And anything that's going to slow down that process, we want to minimize. Mainly, you want to keep fat below 10 grams, just as a rule of thumb. Something else that we want to keep lower before our workout is fiber, because fiber is kind of the same idea as fat. It slows down our digestion and it slows down that release of blood sugar into our system. So keep fiber also minimal. I would say like below 10 grams, 5 grams, 5 to 10 grams. That sounds right. I don't think there's any like hard and fast rules on that. And now I'll give you guys some examples of things that you can eat before your leg workout. I'll show you a picture of my pre-workout here, which has been fueling me for honestly like the past year. It's my staple. I have been thinking about switching it up. Other ideas: bagel with some jam. We got deli turkey slices. You could do like a deli turkey sandwich with some white bread, which is a little bit more quick releasing. We love complex carbohydrates for all our other meals. They're very nutritious. They have a lot of B vitamins, fiber, all the things we need to help sustain a good, healthy system. But before our workout, we want to focus on those quick digesting carbohydrates, which is why we stick more to like our rice cakes, our white bread, our white bagels. Bagels, so good before the gym. Bagel and jam, love it. Chocolate milk, that's another really quick and easy one. Other examples would be toast and egg whites, cereal and milk, so good. And hopefully that was helpful. Let's go fuel up and hit a leg day.
Okay, so I thought I'd walk you guys through my leg day workouts, and I'm also going to put a little picture up above of what the movement should actually look like next to each exercise, so you can really see which muscles are being emphasized. So we're starting today's leg day with one of my favorite lower body exercises, which are Smith machine stationary lunges. And if you've ever struggled to feel lunges in the right places, the setup can make a huge difference because the Smith machine gives you a little bit more stability. So what we're going to start to do, you can see I kind of like set the bar up on the back of my neck, and then you're going to take a long step back into your split stance. From here, think about keeping most of your weight in your front foot. Your back leg is really just there for support. So as you lower down, your front knee tracks over your toes, your chest is staying tall, and your back knee drops straight toward the floor. A cue that really helps me when I do this is just thinking straight down, straight up. I also like to drive through my front heel and really make that mind muscle connection, like straight to my heel, up through my heel, through my glutes, into my quads, and the midfoot back stance. That should really help with squeezing your glutes too. Okay, so up next we have Romanian deadlifts using a barbell. These are one of my favorite lifts for glutes and hamstrings. A couple technique cues that make a huge difference. First, think about pushing your hips straight back instead of just bending down. This is a hinge movement, not a squat. It always really helps me to think that I'm like pushing my butt up into the air, like in the back corner. I keep the bar really close to my legs the whole time, basically dragging it down my thighs and shins. That helps to keep the tension in your hamstrings and also protects your lower back. Make sure your spine is neutral and your chest is proud. You don't want to round forward here at all. For this workout, I'm using 100 pounds and I'm doing sets of 15, 12, 10, and 8 reps, gradually getting more challenging as the reps go down. Okay, so up next are our leg extensions, which are great for isolating the quads. I am somebody that cannot grow my quads to save my life, so I'm really focused on this exercise for sure. One thing I always focus on here is control. Instead of swinging the weight up, I extend my legs slowly and really squeeze my quads at the top for a second. Then on the way down, you'll see that I lower the weight slowly instead of letting it drop. That eccentric control is where a lot of the muscle building happens. I also make sure the machine pad sits right above my ankles and that my knees line up with the pivot point of the machine. That helps to keep the movement comfortable on my joints. For this exercise, I'm using 90 pounds and doing 3 sets of 15 reps. It's a higher rep range, so by the last few reps, my quads are definitely feeling it. I was getting off this machine. My legs were absolutely jello. I could not walk. This is my favorite exercise to really burn out the quads at the end of a workout. Okay, so next we're doing leg presses, but this is single leg presses. And I really like this variation because it lets you work each leg individually and can really help to reveal any strength imbalances you may have. I know I do. For this setup, I place my foot about shoulder width on the platform and keep my heel planted the whole time. As you'll see, when I lower the weight, I'm focusing on controlled movement and letting my knee bend naturally without letting it cave inward. I also keep my lower back pressed into the seat as much as possible so that my hips aren't lifting off the pad. Then I press the platform back up, really driving through my heel. I'm thinking of my heel the whole time and squeezing my quads and my glutes at the top. Here you'll see I'm using about, I think it was 120 pounds, and I'm doing sets of 12, 10, and 8 reps. Honestly, watching this back, I probably could have used a little bit more control, which usually means dropping the weight just slightly. That's always a good reminder that the goal is quality reps over ego lifting, people. My legs were absolute jello here. Like, I could not walk. Okay, last up are hip abductors. These are great for targeting the upper outer glute. That really helps stabilize your hip. It also is the thing that gives you that amazing hourglass shape. When I do these, I try not to push the weight out and let it snap back in. Instead, I am trying to focus on controlled reps and really squeezing my glutes at the outer position for a second. I also try to keep my torso upright and my core engaged the whole time so that the movement stays in my hips rather than just turning into momentum completely. For this exercise, I used 115 pounds, which it really varies from gym to gym. Like I went to Planet Fitness today and I could do the entire stack, which was like 220 pounds. So at my gym, I use 115 pounds and I'm doing 3 sets of 15 reps. On the very last set, I finish with a drop set. So this is where I cut the weight in half and I go straight into 25 small pulses. At that point, it's definitely more about the burn than the weight, but it's a great way to really finish off those glutes. This wasn't in my program. I just ended up putting this in because I wanted to feel a little bit more burn because if you know, you know, you got to be a masochist to be in this sport, honestly.
Okay, and then post-workout, we want to consume some sort of meal or snack within, I would say, like 2 hours of working out. You want to kind of keep your fueling within a 6-hour range. So like before working out, 2 hours before, say your workout is 2 hours, and then after you have 2 hours to fuel. So that's kind of how you want to structure your fueling plan. So I would say you want to eat within, like, obviously the sooner the better. Like I always eat within the hour, but if you have to push it, I would say within those 2 hours after your workout. And the main macronutrients, just like our pre-workout that we're going to be focusing on, research shows we want to aim for 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilogram after our workout. For most people, this is going to look like anywhere from between 20 to 40 grams of protein. And this has been shown to be the best range to support muscle protein synthesis because between 20 and 40 grams of protein gives us at least 2 to 3 grams of an amino acid called leucine. And leucine is very important for turning on that muscle protein synthesis. We want to focus on high biological value proteins, so anything whey or animal based. So it could be anything like yogurt, whey protein, eggs are a good source, chicken. We don't really want to focus on our plant-based proteins directly after our workout. With the caveat, soy is a good, more absorbable form of plant-based protein. So anything soy-based is okay. Research for carbohydrates, post-nutrition, kind of all over the place, but everyone pretty much agrees that anywhere from like 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram after your workout is good. So going off of my calculations, that would mean I need at least 54 grams of carbs post-workout. So again, I try to break my carbs into like 4 boluses throughout the day. So I try to aim for like 85 to 100 grams of carbohydrates post-workout. And then just like our pre-workout, fat's not as important. Anywhere from like 5 to 15 grams of fat is what I would say you're kind of aiming for. Less than 15 or less than 10 is probably even better, just to help the absorption of those carbohydrates to replenish our glycogen stores. Fiber, you also want to keep minimal just because of that absorption. So post-workout, especially if you're eating within that like 30 to an hour after you work out, I would say less than 10 grams of fiber. And then bonuses, I would say, are adding in some sort of antioxidant. Berries are really great. Any kind of like leafy green is good. And then some form of a good fat. So walnuts are really good. And this is just going to help to aid in our recovery as we repair our body post-workout. So for example, this was my post-workout meal after my leg day. I had some oatmeal. I made it with some low-fat milk, so that's giving me a little bit of protein. Sounds weird, but I did mix in some low-fat cottage cheese into there. You couldn't even taste it, and again, that just bumped up the protein. And then I finished it off with some cocoa powder, a little sprinkle of dark chocolate, and some berries just to get some antioxidants in there. There may have been a few other things, but it is escaping my mind. If I missed it, I will put it up here as well, just to let you know. And then fluid is really important pre-workout, but especially important post-workout, as you've lost a lot of fluid via sweat. So we want to aim for refueling our fluids at least 400 to 800 milliliters every hour within the first couple hours. And then you also want to monitor your urine color. So the way that we really determine dehydration or hydration in general is by your urine color. And I'll put a chart of what normal or like healthy urine looks like up here. So if yours is in the darker range and you're hitting that 400 to 800 milliliters of water per hour, you want to keep rehydrating per hour until your urine looks like a normal color. So that's really how we determine that. If you want to get super technical, you could weigh yourself directly before your workout and then directly after, just to determine how much fluid you lost, and then replace that fluid by multiplying by 1.25. So that is my quick and dirty description of pre and post nutrition for your workout. I hope it was helpful. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, all the things. If you want coaching, my email is right here. And other than that, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.